forget, we need masks.
There's a mask right there.
I need to go get mine.
Live.
Reporting live from Anancock, Virginia.
Live from Bangkok is what they meant.
All right. We need masks.
30 seconds.
Mm-hmm.
You can see me and you can hear me, and now I'm waiting. Test 1 2. Test 1 2. Test 1 2. Test. Test. Can you hear me when I speak from Joy's desk? I'm at Joy's desk. Can you hear me? I'm sitting in my chair. Can you hear me? I'm sitting in my chair.
Hey, Fletcher.
Hello. Right.
How you doing? Just to be fully transparent, this is recording.
It's not recording, but it
It's
is
not
live.
recording. It is live, but it's not recording.
Oh, good.
We just tested it and wanted to make sure.
Oh, good. Good. So it's going out right now?
Yes.
Okay, good. I'll put down. What's how it's on the website? It's on there?
Yeah, there's a icon at the bottom for
Right.
YouTube, and you just click on that and it brings you to it.
And that's written at the bottom of the agenda here.
Oh, wonderful.
All right.
Are you talking on the exhale?
All the time.
So the woman told me, and I read it somewhere else, that if I put shaving cream in my glasses, it doesn't fog the mask.
What about the stuff that they clean out for like snorkels and stuff? I wonder if that would help too. Yeah, but they also have like something you can clean it with that's supposed to help. Have you tried
I'm not
pinching your
sure.
nose too up here? I think that helps keep it
Yeah,
in
You know, the other thing.
hot.
Let's see when the door's unlocked.
Oh yeah. And I do have, this is ready to go. They have to just pick it up and talk. I've got it on and everything, so. Hello. Hello, Sharika. How are you?
Very good. How are you?
I'm not very yourself.
I'm well also.
You know there's boxes out here?
There's
Boxes?
what?
2 boxes.
Delivery.
Oh.
Lisa, where am I sitting?
You're right there, and then Sharika's right up there on.
All right.
Evening, ladies.
Hello.
How are you?
I'm doing well and yourself.
Hanging in there.
I'm glad we're in here instead of the town hall.
Yeah, that was-
Fire department.
We are streaming live currently, just so everybody's aware. It's not recording just yet, but it is going out live.
Okay, when the meeting starts.
Well, it's already on live, that way.
Okay.
Yes.
Get some water.
Hi, Mavis.
Just a little rusted.
Yeah, I think it's coming Thursday, back to the eighties. Greetings, sir.
Greetings.
How are we sitting?
You are up there.
By Fletcher? Okay, good, so I can hear.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, we were, a lot of beaching
How
this
are you?
weekend. And I just saw your husband walking the dog, so he's checked
Okay.
that off his list.
Excellent.
To be transparent, folks,
Oh, that's
We are
fantastic.
we are streaming live. We're not recording right now, but it is being broadcast.
Hi, Shai, how are you?
I'm well and yourself.
I'm a little warm, but I'm okay.
Sorry?
YouTube.
YouTube. Just click on the icon, our main website. Just click on the YouTube icon.
Even if you think it don't say it.
Oh, yeah, there we are. Oh, we got a delay.
Yes,
There's
it's
a
30
30-second
seconds.
delay.
Thank you. You're welcome. I bought some from the car, but it's like boiling hot, so. Thought this would be better. Are you started yet? Do you need to, can I ask you a question?
That's very good. I like that.
There you are, sir. I thought about these about 4:30 this afternoon, hoping you guys didn't need me to sign the whole pile of them.
I appreciate it.
A little thin these days. I need a booster seat.
I got my pillow. You'll get a pillow.
Hey, we're streaming it live, it's working. I'm looking at it right now. computer, you go on a town website and click on the YouTube thing at the bottom of the phone. And there's a 30-second delay. All right. Well, yeah, right. I don't know how to take them. Okay, well, they can't type anything in, it's just one way. Yeah, this is just big stream. Okay, all right, all right.
Get your jacks.
What's that?
Get your jacks.
Stops.
I need to sit up here all the time so I can hear you.
Oh, yeah. Well, it looks like we have a quorum, that's good.
That's a nice segue, Mavis. I tested the audio from every position.
Yeah.
You can hear it fine, but you do need to speak toward that computer.
Oh, okay.
The microphone broadcasts up here, so it's not as direct as your voice.
Okay, so I'm making it to there.
You're making it to here.
So you just select the YouTube and it is there?
Yeah, it popped right up. It's, well,
I did it not.
did you go on the website?
Yeah, I'm on the website.
There's an icon at the bottom. Just click that.
Yeah.
And then it moves you to another page on our website. You gotta click the play button on there and it goes right to YouTube.
When I clicked it, it's just the YouTube thing went on top of our website. It
Oh.
did that, yeah.
Perfect.
So we can be in the video or Joy, doesn't matter who.
Offer it to Joy.
Pardon me?
Do you want to sit in Catherine's seat so you can be live on TV?
No. That's fine. I'm comfortable where I am. It's gonna look like we don't have a quorum though.
Anybody heard from Ray? Because he's been working out of town.
You say,
I am going to hit record now, just so everybody's aware.
Thank you for letting us know. Joy, are you gonna stay with me in Chicago? Your glasses. Are you gonna stay with the book? Yes. I have them out. Nobody can see me anyway, so. No, you should be up here. I must admit, this was the biggest book we've had in quite a while.
A lot of minutes.
Yeah, I know, but that's what I'm saying.
All right, all right, I'm gonna call the Hancock regular town council meeting to order. Lisa, would you like to take the roll, please?
Mayor Foskey,
Present?
Councilmember Bloxham,
Here?
Councilmember Marino,
Here.
Councilmember Krause, Councilmember Berger, Councilmember Oswald,
Here.
Councilmember Riley.
Here.
The majority of members are present and we have a quorum, sir.
Thank you. All right, pledge of allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, the consideration and approval of minutes, meetings from two meetings. First of all, the May 28th town council meeting. Has everybody had a chance to review those? Any changes or corrections?
Make a motion to approve both sets of minutes as presented.
Second? Discussion? All in favor? Oh, you got a discussion?
I have discussion.
Okay.
We spoke with Lisa today about this, page one of the June 22nd. Oh, I should take this off so you can hear me maybe. June 22nd meeting. Lisa let us know that the council members Berger and Oswald certificates of election until June 30th, 2022.
Yeah, it's good.
But it should be She said the certificates were sent out with you.
Yeah, they will.
Do it over.
Yes, okay. So should we correct that in the minutes, Lisa, or just leave it?
Well, that's actually what transpired during that
Yeah.
meeting,
Yeah.
but to note that it's been corrected officially, I think it's probably worth pointing out.
Any other, is that what you had? Is that the correction you had as well?
I didn't have a correction, I was just going.
Okay. All right, we got a motion on the floor. All in favor?
Aye.
All right, looks like we have several items of public business. The first item is accept the recommendation made by Planning Commission at the 528 Town Council meeting to rezone property located at 58 Market Street from business downtown B1 to residential R1. Matt, I think you got to clarify this for us.
Yeah, the clarification is simple. On May 28th, you folks voted, the planning commission recommended that you offer a rezoning of the 58 Market Street. You offered a special use permit for the property, but you never did vote on the actual rezoning. So this is simply a formal vote to rezone the property. You've already had the discussion. You've already had, they've already paid for their special use permit. I mean, it's really just a matter of formality, but it's an important formality.
Okay. I think we have a motion here.
Yes.
Somebody want to read that?
I will. Mr. Mayor, I move that the town of Nancock approve the recommendation made by Planning Commission on May 28, 2020 to rezone the property located at 58 Market Street from downtown business B1 to residential R1A.
Second,
I second it.
discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
I think we need to. Is that all by everybody? Okay, we don't need to roll call on that. do we? Okay, all righty. All right, the second item, public business is increased special use permit. Similar, Matt,
Sure.
follow up on this one.
The discussion that took place started on March 12th during the budget hearing. And the recommendation was made that we increase the fee for special use permits from $125 to $250 plus advertising. At the June 22nd meeting, there were some questions about that fee. So I've answered the questions, and one of the questions was, what are other towns charging for special use permits? So I have that in front of me. Cape Charles is $450. Only is $150 plus advertising. Exmoor is $150, and Chincoteague is $450. So what this motion recommends is that we align ourselves with our neighboring town only and increase from 125 with no additional cost, reimbursement cost of advertising, to increase it to $150 plus reimbursement for advertising. And there's a motion in your packet for that.
Thank you. I will read that motion.
Sure, I'll do it.
I can't.
Mr. Mayor, you got it? I'll be glad to. Mr. Mayor, I move that the town of Nancock approve the amendment to Article 15, special use permit, section 24-93 to a fee of $150 permit fee and require the applicant to reimburse the town for all costs incurred.
Do we have a second?
I second it.
Discussion?
Makes sense. The advertising, the
Yeah, we need to
expensive
get,
part.
certainly need to get that back.
And this makes it so that the advertising cost that is actually paid what is incurred.
Yes.
So the town's gonna be on that now. All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Okay, carries unanimously. Item C, add an additional assessment to each criminal or traffic case. This is a carryover again from the previous meeting. Matt?
Sure.
Excuse me, that was $5 for it.
That was $5, that's correct. And the story behind this is simple. Each police chief on the shore believes that an e-summons system will be required by the state in a few years. They are, meaning the state is allowing localities to charge a $5 per citation or summons fee to each of those in order to start saving money in the case that that e-summons system is required. Now, council asked a pretty good question in the last meeting to say, how much is this going to raise? If these are very expensive systems, we don't issue that many tickets. So to answer that question, the town currently issues about 300 to 400 citations a year. So at $5 a piece, we're looking at maybe $2,000 a year. So we're not going to recoup the entire cost. Over 5 years, maybe we get one. But if we have one for each car, there's still going to be costs associated with it. Maybe there will be grant funding, maybe there won't. But at the end of the day, we're looking for $5 per summons or citation. We're not looking at changing any of the policing that we do as far as our traffic enforcement. There's not going to be any increase or any change in our methodology. So what we're looking for is, the other part of the story is this. If we do not charge this $5, the court has said that it will be charged and given to the county. So the $5 is going to be charged. It's just whether or not we get to keep it or not. I've talked with each of the chiefs. Our chief said that he absolutely recommends this. Again, we're not going to bankroll a lot of the funds necessary, but even if we can take a little bit of the sting off down the road, I think we should. So that's why we are recommending that you adopt this motion and add section 1323 to our town code. Yes.
The question when we talked about this last meeting, I said it would take about 4 years for it to cover the cost of one. However, I did ask the question of its portability because I don't see the sense in having it in every car.
We would need to have one in every car that's going to do traffic stops. They're not portable between cars. At least the current technology isn't.
So if you install it in one car, that's the only car that it can operate from?
That's the only car. If it were required for every police car that performs a traffic stop to have an e-summons system, then we would only have, if we saved up our money and bought one, we would only have one car that allows that. Each of our officers have their own car. So the way that we currently do business, we would need one for each car that does traffic stops.
So we don't even know that this is going to happen, so.
No, but it's likely that something like this will allow us to offset the costs over time.
Okay, well, the amount that we're going to collect is only going to offset the cost for one anyway.
Right.
At the beginning, so we have to look at that down the road, correct?
Correct.
Okay.
And is the fee capped at $5?
Yes.
What's chargeable?
It is. I asked that.
What do we do? Where's the money going to go into?
It's going to go into a designated bank account that's set aside and reserved with the restriction that it may only be used for an e-summons system.
And what happens if that never happens?
And at that point, we're going to have to revisit the use of these funds. We're not required to give the money back, if that's your correct question.
And what is the effective date when Accomack is going to implement this, when the county starts it?
We would be the first, of my knowledge, we'd be the first incorporated town to adopt this fee, but it would be initiated immediately.
So back to Joy's question, the county is not going to do it?
The county is going to do it for the sheriff.
They have
I don't
money
know
yet.
when they're going to adopt it, to be quite honest.
So we're going to adopt it before the county.
We're legally allowed to adopt it
As of yesterday.
as of July 1.
Okay, we have a motion for this?
Mr. Mayor, I move that the town of Hancock approve the creation of section 13-23 electronic summons system. Well, there goes my computer. Timeout. Electronic summons system in chapter 13 motor vehicles and traffic of the town code.
Second? Need a second?
Or we don't do it.
No second?
Why wouldn't we?
Because it's an up in the air kind of thing. It's an if and when. And right now, is the county going to impose $5 on every ticket and collect it?
They're gonna take this money if we don't.
Well, maybe it would help if we just wait until the county puts it into effect, and then we could say yes.
But the fear is that the county's gonna take it, and then once they set it up, then we cannot.
Yeah, from my understanding from the chief, the county has actually asked him to enact this because it makes their accounting a little bit easier because all the other incorporated towns are also gonna vote for this.
But they have not as yet.
Not that I'm aware of.
If we feel confident that it's coming down the road, why not bank that money now and offset as much as possible
Right.
the cost? I mean, it's $5. We're not
But
talking
what are we
500.
betting on? I mean, what, you're saying if we're confident that it's gonna happen, what is the level of confidence? Why is it so high?
Well, the verbiage for this the additional assessment for electronic summons system wasn't written by us. It was promulgated from somebody else recommending that we add this code. So this is going to be adopted by other municipalities. If we choose not to do that, that's perfectly fine. It's not going to change the way we police our traffic enforcement. It is just simply going to reduce the revenue that we receive from it.
Okay, I'll second.
Okay, we got a second, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right, that carries, yeah, I mean, I think it's silly to give the county the money when we can take it, yeah, it sounds like they're gonna do it.
That's a
Yeah, that's
deciding
kind of
factor.
a no-brainer. Yeah.
Right.
That's where the rubber meets the road.
Yeah, right, all right, we're on, let's see, letter D, remove approval for easement in town park for the Civil War trail sign. This has been a kind of an ongoing, little bit of a quagmire for quite a while. And I've gotten a bunch of emails, I think I forwarded a bunch to Matt. As far as we know, the original email I got from Tara Burton was that the library was, pulling support in it. And I haven't heard officially from OVCA if they have actually pulled their support. Did they vote to rescind it too, or?
They haven't had a meeting since Kara announced that they were backing away from the project.
Right.
But I know that at the last OBCA meeting,
Yeah.
they were putting it on an agenda to discuss down the road.
Right.
Go ahead.
Matt, didn't the Tourism Bureau back off it?
Yes, as well, yeah.
Right,
Yeah.
so I
No,
thought at the
no worry.
OBCA meeting that it was tabled until, I think it was, Mr. Rochester was gonna go and say, you cannot change the criteria of what the plan is. You have to either use the money for what we gave it to you for, or allotted it for, or take it back.
That's
And I think
absolutely
that's what
right.
it is.
Yeah, that's absolutely right. But the library didn't back away from the project until after the OBCA meeting. So once they decided to do that, that's sort of going to force the hand of OBCA because their policy says that we're not going to change purpose of the gift, and therefore it's just going to sit in their bank account and it's going to remain undistributed.
And my question second is that if we take away this permit, this for the use, the easement for the use, it can't happen anyway.
Correct.
And I say amen.
Yeah, the organization is, I don't know what's going on with the organization. The wife took them 8 months to look at one piece of, and I think we're, to tell you the truth, we're dodging a bullet here, I think, in terms of dealing with them. I don't know. And it seems like there was more information to the tourism. They also backed out. They must have done, because I know they wanted to do more than just one. So I think we've got to definitely take this easement back. We can't leave that out for them.
You know, the world has changed since we
Yeah.
first discussed this, and I
Yes.
completely support
Yeah.
you rescinding the easement.
And I asked Kelly a long time ago, the woman from the historical, I said, this just doesn't play well for here. And I think it's wrong, and it's the wrong thing to do. So I'm glad that everybody's backing off.
All right, we have a motion here.
I have a comment. Where's the $6,000? Still with OBCA?
That's OBCA's
That's
money,
none
it's
of our-
not the
yeah,
town's.
it's not our concern.
I'm asking as a member of OBCA.
Yeah. We have a motion here.
I'll read it. Mr. Mayor, I move that the town of Nancock rescind the permission for temporary easement entry agreement endorsed by the town manager of Nancock on August 28, 2019.
Second,
Second.
all in favor?
Aye.
Excuse me, that motion said temporary.
That's the form that was filed, and the following page is the title of the form that
Yes.
was endorsed by the previous manager.
Okay.
So that's the reason it's named that.
Yeah, I guess it's so we can take it off.
I just don't want to leave the door open.
No, we're not. It's the title.
Okay, I can't see, I don't know, I don't see it, but
I guess we
Legally,
just,
an easement is into perpetuity unless it's termed a temporary easement, so.
yeah, I get you.
okay, thank you.
All right, item E, COVID-19 personnel policy requirement. I'll get this one stuck away.
Yeah. Last week, on the 15th, the governor stated that he was going to be promulgating the Virginia Safety and Health Code's emergency temporary standard for infectious disease prevention for all employers in the state of Virginia. He did not, however, publish those mandates. The Virginia Occupational Safety, BOSH, and the Department of Labor have since released what they believe will be the mandates. And that is what I used to generate a proposed policy that follows. And it's a beast. I mean, it's 12 pages long. What we're required to do is we're required to do training of all employees. And keep in mind, this is for the protection of our employees, regardless of their position, from COVID-19. So we're to train our employees on all of the methods and madness inside this policy. Then we're required to assess each position to find out what level of exposure, and then at each level of exposure, what actions we are, as an employer, are going to need to take in order to protect our employees from this. I put this in here with the hopes that the council would use it to hand it off to the personnel committee of council to review the policy in detail so that it can be adopted. According to the governor and the Department of Labor, this law will be enforceable this week when it's published in a generally read newspaper in Richmond. Can't even make this stuff up. So the Department of Labor is going to let us know through their website when it has been published. There have been no notices as of today that it has been put in the paper, but they are saying absolutely this week, and they're saying it will be immediately enforceable. So that's why I wanted to get the COVID policy in our personnel policies as quickly as we possibly could.
When I read the policy or what it was intending to do, I didn't see anything about financial support for the employee. Is there, I
That's
mean, do we
gonna be-
have something in place, or do we plan to put something in place?
There is part of the policy that discusses compensation in this, and I'd really love to have the personnel committee go through that, because there are a lot of options open to council and the town. I made a recommendation in there, but that's the extent of
I
it.
didn't see it.
It's a very long policy, so I
I think
apologize
I
for that.
skimmed a lot.
I don't blame you, because it's a dense read, but I took that from the Department of Labor. They were kind enough to put a template out there that we could use. So this is not my language. This comes from the Department of Labor, and I just put in, I filled in the blanks.
It's a very good policy.
It is.
It's
It's
a
really
very,
good.
and a great step toward the safety. And what I got out of it, I thought it was very good.
Right, so there's no action required by council tonight, other than I would request that it get turned over to the personnel committee for, review, recommendation, and come back here for vote. Until that time, in all likelihood, I'm going to be managing based on this policy, just so that we can, if it's enforceable this week, I have to have something to manage by.
But you've already got your recommendation for the personnel committee, or we have to work out a few things.
Well, I think that there's plenty to talk about in this policy, so I'd really like to see council talk it through,
Okay.
rather than just,
Well, we need to have a personnel committee.
yes, you do.
All right, okay, so we'll set that up as soon as possible. Yeah. It's just, you and me. We're having a vacancy on the personnel committee, correct?
Yeah, we have a vacancy for somebody in personnel, which is, sort of a great segue into the next item on the agenda.
All right, okay, all right. Okay, anybody questions on that? Guess we're gonna get back to you on that. All right, established town council committee structure. I think some of these are already in place. Number one, waterfront committee. Nothing we really need to do there. We already have Bob is our representative for waterfront. That committee's fairly staffed. Up to
Yeah, I mean, one of the things I was hoping to do is, as we reviewed each of the committees, talk about a couple of the major projects that are coming up that are going to be facing this. So the waterfront committee, the ramp project that we were funded by VPA, we were writing on July 1, the rule for putting projects like this out to bid changed a little bit, and it said, if you estimate that the project cost may exceed, and it was just that wording, if it may exceed $200,000, then you have to have a sealed invitation for bid, not just a public request for bid. So I've gotten from the county, I asked them for an invitation for bid language, and they had one for Folly Creek. So I'm taking that, putting our language in, but the waterfront committee has got that project in front of them to get that invitation for bid out reasonably quickly, because our timeline for this says that we'd like to begin the project in October. So it's July. So that gives a pretty short period of time to write the RFP or the invitation, to receive the bids back, and to actually schedule the work to begin. So I just want to make sure that the time sensitivity of that and urgency are out there. So
what do you want the committee to do though?
they're going to be the ones that are going to have to, I think, review the specs that we're going to be asking for the request for proposal. I mean, we're going to have to write a scoping and specking document for contractors to respond to.
Was the county's RFP for Folly Creek fairly detailed?
It was. It also included engineering documents and drawings that we don't have the capacity in-house to produce.
That was my question. So if you don't have that in the RFP, how do you get qualified bids?
I think that's the question of the hour, Maphis. I think that one of the things that I talked with T. Lee about as chair of the waterfront is, do we want to set aside an amount of money to pay an engineer to write that portion of the bid, so that the contractors get good language and we don't end up with change order after change order, because, I don't do structural engineering for a living.
Right. And the other thing is that we've had experience with putting those things out there and saying, well, we didn't know that. We
Right.
didn't
And
know
I'd
you
like to
needed
put it in
scrape
somebody's
the ground
hands.
before you paved it,
Well,
you know?
what about the guy who helped us with the grant?
There are a lot of phone calls being made to solicit
Well,
support for this.
do we need to, does the waterfront, can't you and T. Lee and Bob get together and we need to?
Yes,
I
we
think we're
can.
gonna slow things down the way around for the waterfront committee.
Well, it's going to take me time to generate the bid document, and then we've got a waterfront committee in
Okay.
2 weeks. 2 weeks.
Oh, okay.
So
As long as they're not holding it. Okay.
no.
Okay.
Because the time sensitivity of this is important.
Yeah, I know, we're gonna be the same problem we had before, but it seems like every time we get down to work, we start working on April 1, it needs to be working on it November 1,
Agreed.
How much are we talking about for an engineer?
I don't know yet. That's the phone call. Those are the phone
Folly
calls that
Creek.
we're taking. They
Yeah.
couldn't give me the engineer the drawings had the name of the engineering firm on it. So I'm reaching out to them to find out if they'd be willing to, come alongside us. But I don't know if they're going to be bidders or not. So I have to look through that. But anyway, that's what Waterfront's got coming up. It's a reasonably important timeline.
So what's the economic situation at the wharf so far? Can we know how we're doing?
Well, we're down $31,000 as of June 30th in transient.
From the same period last year?
Yeah.
Is that what we expected? We've not,
I think we put in a 40% reduction and we were down like a little over 50, but I don't know what July's got in store for us. So that's really what I'm going to be looking to do is once we sort of recognize what has happened to us over the course of the pandemic, is probably come back with a budget amendment in October, once we can start to look at what's happened, what we might need to adjust. Maybe we did better in certain areas than others, but that'll give us a little bit more sense of reality, so.
okay, is that it for Waterfront? Planning Commission? We still have an opening on the Planning Commission, correct?
We do. Matt's position is open. At our meeting last week, we talked about getting the word out on social media as well as word of mouth. I think we had one or possibly two interested parties, but the more the merrier. Obviously, we'd love to get that filled sooner rather than later because the comprehensive plan is back in a place where it can move forward thanks to Matt graciously agreeing to take the pen from Jim McGowan, who now is, employed full-time, and Jim is still gonna help in a consultative fashion, but admitted that he was too busy to do a lot of the basic writing. So, as I said, Matt's graciously agreed to start that process so that Planning Commission can then start the review and bring something to council, hopefully in a timely fashion. It needs to get done because it dovetails with Main Street, dovetails with some of the other grant opportunities that are out there. And frankly, it hasn't been done in way too long. So,
Are you going to make a recommendation to us at our next meeting, hopefully for the members?
I think that's the plan. I believe that Judith hopes to have, a recommendation for a new member as
You have a
of
meeting before that, so yeah.
next month's meeting.
If you
Yeah,
don't,
we asked that interested parties communicate with me by August 10th, and I can go through a little bit of what's required and what's coming up, and then Judith and her team can review at their next meeting and then make a recommendation to you at your next meeting.
Were there people who were interested in the commission prior to this last go round that were not put on the committee and that might still be interested?
Not that I am aware of, Mavis. There may have been, but I know that we really had to reach out to a number of people before we got the last opening filled. But as I said, were there not two mentioned last week that have definitely expressed an interest?
Can you please tell me who's on the planning commission? Then I know Judith is the
It would
chair.
be Bill Bagwell, Ridgway Dunton, Larry Fry, Scott Schreiber, Judith Greer, myself.
Okay, because I'm pretty sure that Jeffrey Barrett was one of the people who raised his hand and said he'd be interested. I'm just saying.
he will understand.
We'll take all comers at this point.
Okay. All right, is there anything else for Planning Commission?
Yes, sir.
Okay, Personnel Committee, we need, I guess we've been tasked with what you need to do. I'm sure there's other things over the next year or two that you want to do with personnel, but right now.
There are, in the near term, it's obviously the COVID policy, and we're going to be looking at the director level or department manager level job descriptions, because those are actually part of the personnel policies.
Right.
And that's what we're going to be using to, go through performance measures and performance evaluations, that type of thing. So we want to make sure they've got accurate and current job descriptions.
All right, the Personnel Committee has to be members of council, can't be anybody else, and myself, so we need Catherine's on a member, right? Are you interested in the Personnel Committee? That leaves,
Last choice.
huh? No, I mean, either way, I mean, we get, everybody else has got,
To your department head, is their job description already, or do we have to start from scratch?
No, you do not have to start from scratch. They're already part of the personnel policy, and I have each of them going through their current descriptions to find out what they're currently doing, what needs to be added, what might need to be removed. So we're having those conversations now. I'll be able to come back to personnel with a recommendation for current descriptions. It shouldn't be sweeping changes, just so you know. There's
yeah, I think, well, you're on the, water and sewer, correct?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. And then, Ray is their.
That's just water complaints, though.
Yeah, right, and then Ray is our representative for the school, correct?
Um,
Yeah.
So you're looking for two major changes here with department heads and the code policy. That's basically, okay.
Yeah, and there's another policy that needs to be reviewed for its accuracy. So there's work to be done.
Okay, I'll do it.
We need a-
Bless you.
Look at that.
Well, we didn't want you to have to do it, Bob.
We need a motion.
But you had enough on your
I, my plate's full at the
Yeah.
moment.
Yeah, yeah. Oh, you're on.
Ms. Hokenstein.
We need a motion to appoint. I'd like to make a motion.
I move that Joy be appointed to the Personnel Committee.
We have a second?
Joy Marino.
Joy Marino,
I will second that.
joyfully.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. All righty, we'll get together if we need a meeting fairly soon, so, four of us, there shouldn't be too much time. All right, see, the, next one is the HRSD, representative. Matt, you wanna, that's just,
Yeah, I mean, the reason we want these new, more formal committees is because HRSD, in all likelihood, is once they move forward with the petitions to the court, that contract with us is going to move forward relatively quickly. And because Bob was an integral part of the original sewer and water committee, I was hoping that he'd be willing to continue that in the contract negotiation role. And he agreed, with very little arm twisting.
all right, so do we have any of the, what size of the committee you're looking at? It's not as big as your previous committee, or? Okay.
Yeah, I think, because you're talking a fairly complex negotiation, smaller is probably better. Now, I'll forewarn council that Matt and I are firmly of the opinion that we need good legal counsel on this. This is not something to bootstrap. We're dealing with a very sophisticated entity, and we get one bite at this apple, and we need to get all we can get. So I don't have an estimate of what we may need to spend. Once we get into it, we can come back to council and get a budget for legal expense, but we're gonna need some real legal horsepower on this.
Is, John doesn't have a conflict, are we planning on using John, or are we not? We don't know yet.
I am of the opinion, and I think John would agree, that this is outside of his scope of expertise.
Okay. So we are looking at a budget.
So where do you go for it?
To a big city.
Okay, to a city that has gone through this.
Ideally, it would be great to have representation by council that's negotiated with HRSD successfully before, but between Matt's contacts and mine, we can make recommendations into somebody that would be the right person or people for this.
Mhm.
But we haven't started that discussion process yet.
Have we got a budget for this? I mean, this sounds expensive.
Well, a little bit of that depends, and that's why just getting a scope of work with the committee is going to be important for us to be able to secure the right counsel.
Okay, this could be ways off, too.
Right.
All right.
Oh, I hope that it happens in 2021.
Yeah, yeah.
We get the court back, on this, then it should happen in 2021.
And I'd like to see it before the next governor's budget cycle.
Absolutely.
So, so are you gonna come with a list of people you want on the committee for next month meeting or something, or what do you want, how are you gonna do that?
Yeah, Matt and I can get our heads together.
Did you say that the courts have not allowed HRSD to operate here yet, right? They haven't had.
That's right, the
for
petition
approval
has
yet?
not, there's not been a hearing on the petition yet because of the court backlog.
Okay, so does that give us time, or does it mean that we better get on it?
Well, I don't think any of us can estimate when the court may get to the hearing, although everybody's back working, so it should be in process again.
Our
But-
representatives can't tell us anything about that either.
And, well, I've talked to Steve, I see Steve pretty much every morning, and, you know, the word he's getting back from HRSD that it's on, they haven't set a date for the docket yet, but it's in the pile, you know, that now has to be gone through.
Right.
But I think, you know, I'm of the opinion that the sooner we get this particular committee thinking about the negotiation process, the better, and then we're prepared to move into it quickly with a game plan, a scope, and you know, be ready to work as soon as it's time to work.
We're not committed when it goes through the courts, right? When do we commit?
At the point where we would sign a contract.
That's
Yep.
in the future.
All right, I guess we're gonna get get both of these things done, committee reports as well. So you're gonna give us the list of people for the next meeting. Point people.
Yes, Matt and I can talk more about that. We had a quick conversation last week, but we can definitely do that.
The other, another new committee that is the strategic planning committee. I guess we need some people for that.
Yeah, these next two committees are brand new and I think important given the direction the town is going. One is a strategic planning committee because I really do believe that we need to set boundaries and a vision for where we're going and then have a plan to get there. It's also going to direct how we're going to look for non-tax dollars for funding because we want to make sure that we're applying for grants that align with the direction that the council wants the town to go. So we want to make sure that we get all of these things together, the planning commission, the comprehensive plan, the strategic plan, a 5-year financial plan, all of those things so that we can start looking at non-tax revenue sources to achieve that long-term vision. Does that make sense?
I'm of the opinion that both of these two committees are town manager responsibilities,
I can do them. I don't have any problem with that.
okay? Because
I
I'm
mean,
thinking, that's what I'm thinking, that you're in the position to bring all this information together, know what we need to do, or find a direction and say, this is what I think we should do, and give us direction.
Well, it's council's job to set direction for the town. It's my job to make sure we go there.
I think strategic planning is definitely council planning.
And do we not have to have a member of council on any special committee? That was my understanding, but I don't know that there's basis for that other than my
I don't
understanding.
think that's any law rule that I know of. No, I don't think so. We usually have a council rep just to report back to the council, but we don't have a council representative. Oh, that's Ray's on the tree board. Yeah, I guess that's on. Yeah.
At the risk of running afoul of my dear friend, Mr. Mayor, I would say that this is one where you really want your fingerprints on it.
Yeah.
Because this is setting the, you know, the game plan for the next 3 to 5 years. And I would feel comfortable if you were involved to a large degree, whatever degree you can commit to it.
Well, I know that we've got several, volunteers. I know Carol Tunstall is interested in getting involved with it. She's a super organized person. I think, I think we should keep it, keep it fairly small and we'll, I mean, you'll have obviously, it'll be enough, that's what you're probably end up doing a lot of it. All right, so why don't we'll set up a committee, we'll come up with some names. Same thing with you and I get together, Carol, anybody else wants to be on it?
Which one are we talking about?
Strategic, and marketing and communication, I don't know, that's, I don't know, I don't have a strong feeling about that one.
Before we leave strategic planning, I've had a couple of conversations with Carol, and I know that Catherine has also. I think Carol probably doesn't feel comfortable chairing that committee. She feels very comfortable in being the facilitator for the process, which I've done several times in my career, and that's a pretty skill-specific job, and we're lucky to have her, but I think we will need to have a committee chair for that committee with Carol leading the discussion.
Would that not be your town manager?
Yeah, possibly, yeah.
I'm happy to do it.
That's what I'm saying.
I am happy to do it. It's just, when the direction is set, typically that would be the voice of council shaping it.
Exactly.
Okay.
I get that.
All right, well, let's get it, there again, I'll get together, we'll come up with some names for that.
That's fine.
We're not gonna appoint anybody tonight, if you guys want to, if you're interested, just talk to me or Matt, yeah, okay.
And then do we vote on those appointments or?
Or do we vote to have the committee
Well, yeah,
for the establishment of a new
to be
committee?
quite honest with you, I'm a little unclear about what the powers of committees, who votes. I think the council sets up committees. That's how we've done it in the past.
Yeah.
We have basically take names, and, they pretty much a vote of who signed up.
That's how we do with HRSD.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah, we're not going to exclude, we don't want to get 12 people on this committee, that's for sure. But we'll discuss it at the next meeting. The same thing with the marketing and communication. There again,
Yeah, that's fine.
I know Main Street's got a lot of, they're going to have a lot of marketing experience.
And one of their major initiatives is to partner with the town to talk about communication plan and wayfinding and all that type of thing. So that's why I thought this would be a nice conduit to work with council and Main Street together on one of their top 4 initiatives.
All right. Okay. Is that anything, that's it for the committees then? We're gonna.
Yeah.
All right, public comment? We got 2 members of the public here. No comment? No comment. All right. Committee reports, I think we've pretty much already done that, correctly?
Mhm.
Has anybody, we've pretty much done that. I don't really have any much of a mayor's report. I think, that it's been darn hot and nobody's been wanting to do too much. So, I did have one comment. What's the policy on the flags? Is that, I talked to you,
It's coming down after Labor Day.
so we're gonna stay up through Labor Day. Is that okay with the council? I know we didn't.
Flag. What are you talking
The flags on, the flags that ODCA supported, I guess something that the council needs to weigh in. Somebody have any issue with flags from what, Memorial Day to Labor Day?
I only have a question about repurchasing 1/3 of the flags every year.
We just want to make sure that the flags that are flying are fresh and clean.
Right. But replace as necessary rather than to say a hot 1/3.
That's fine.
Thank you.
I don't have anything else really. Going to town manager report.
Okay, well, I'm not going to read through everything. I'm just going to go through some of the highlights. I think one of the highlights was that we went through and evaluated and distributed our small business grant. We distributed 14 full grants for $3,072 and 24 partial grants for $1,023 each. I want to sort of sing the praises of the town right now because the county put their small business grant out there and said that they were going to issue fixed fee, first come, first serve grants to businesses who have been closed. And at the supervisors meeting, they announced that they only had 34 qualified grant recipients. We issued 39. It wasn't first come, first serve. They weren't just ordered to close. So we gave a lot of money to a lot of people, whereas the county really did. They didn't distribute as much as they were hoping to. I'll leave it at that.
On that, we distributed 67,000. What did you set aside?
67,000. We distributed every penny.
Bravo.
Okay.
And the checks were signed. I'm assuming they've got them now, right?
Many have.
Yeah, I signed the other day. That was,
I just wanted to say that because I was concerned when we started this process, how many people would actually go into it, and I know you were asking businesses for their applications, begging people to apply. And I think how many businesses do we have that out of the 39, how many did not apply?
I think we have 81 full business.
I think there's 120 on our records, not all of them are in town though.
Right. So the ones that were in town, I thought it was in the low 80s. And I had a couple people who one gave in their application, but then realized they weren't going to qualify because the grant required, for a partial grant required that they have a 20% drop in revenue,
Oh, I saw
and
that.
they didn't. So they weren't as hurt as many of the other organizations, so we were able to, I think this is a super initiative that council put forward, and I'm really pleased with the way
And
it
the
came
speed-
together and the amount of money that we were able to
And the
distribute.
speed of getting it done.
Yeah.
I applaud you.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks to the people on the committee, to Hayden and.
Yeah, Hayden,
and,
Hayden, Dick Freeman, and
Dick Freeman,
Bob,
yeah.
we were able to put that together and review it and approve.
Lisa for taking the first cut at the setting up the guidelines,
Yeah.
because it made it very easy to go through these, and it was very objective the way that we handled it.
So there were virtually no people applied that weren't given.
There was one person who applied that didn't receive it because that business had a 16% drop in revenue, not a 20% drop in revenue. So that was the only application that came in that didn't meet the threshold. Everybody else got something. I wanted to talk about the recodification process. Recodification, if you remember, the definition of recodification means that we're taking our current town code and having Municode update the references to state law, because state law sometimes wiggles around a little bit and they're just updating the footnotes. As they update the footnotes, what we're doing is we're going to come back to council and then we're going to do a systematic code review. So that's what we're going through. We've got right now, they're updating the references to the code, and we're going to distribute that code to you folks, and then you're going to start having the discussions that council should have about what code we should have as a town. The first two that we're going to do is a next meeting, because we've already finished the references, we've already finished the town notes, so now it's your time to review those. And we're going to go through what I hope is 2 codes or 2 chapters every other month. And on the off month, we'll be able to finalize it and adopt it. So we'll be able to go through a systematic review of all of our town codes so that you can make sure that you're comfortable with everything that's included. Does that make sense?
So the business that is doing the recodification is only bringing it up to standard, but what about the things that have been changed along the way,
We're bringing it up to current code,
up to current code with the state and
up to our current
our
code, and then
Okay.
that code is being updated with current law.
Okay,
Does that make sense?
yes.
So when are we gonna get this thing to look at for the next meeting?
You're going to get it in the packet before the next meeting.
How much time? I mean, more than.
Well, I'm hoping what I'd like to be able to change is getting the agenda and the board pack 10 days ahead of the meeting.
Thank you.
So that if anything comes up that we need to add to the agenda, I'll put a motion together so that somebody can add an item to the agenda and we can do it. But it doesn't seem fair that we send a packet, 45 pages long, 60 pages long, 3 days before the meeting, because it doesn't give you a chance to really study it and ask questions. So we're going to shoot for 10 days ahead of time, and if we need to add anything at the last minute, I'll write the motion for you so you can add an item to the agenda.
Thank you.
Does that make sense? Okay. We already talked about the COVID policy. I've asked that you push that out to personnel. Thank you. We've already talked about HRSD and where that stands with, and Steve gave me the same update that he's given Bob about where it stands with the court docket. We've already talked about the BPA grant and that we're writing that new invitation for bid, and it's a dense document, and we're going to learn a lot more about getting the engineering support to get that written well. I met with Chris Isdell from VDOT to talk about a lot of different things, but predominantly was, let's get the plan to transfer our streets over to VDOT that we can transfer over. There's one that will be in a resolution for you next month to transfer because all the work's been done. Everything's ready. We can just simply vote to have it transferred over. And we've got 2 streets beyond that that need a little bit of work, but they're already very far into the process to transfer. So we need to do a little bit of work. Then we'll get the resolution and we'll move those over. So we've got 3 streets that are pretty postured and ready to transfer over. The next group of streets that I'm hoping to transfer over are going to be paid for, hopefully, with that Northeast grant, the Northeast Community Grant. Because there's so much of that that's designed to work on street infrastructure with drainage, with street lighting, the work that's naturally going to be part of that grant will in all likelihood bring the streets that aren't up to VDOT standards up to VDOT standards, so we can possibly bring those transfer over without having to use town budget dollars.
Those streets are in Northeast that you're talking about?
The streets that would be impacted by the Northeast, absolutely, yeah, it's in that quadrant.
Were
But
they
there's
on
only a
our,
few.
There's only a few, and there's only two that I'm talking about right
Well,
now,
I'm
school and
saying you're
cross.
talking about using some of the funds and for that to.
I'm
get
not
them up.
using anything that's not already part of the plan. The program itself is designed to build the infrastructure of the streets in the Northeast neighborhood.
Okay. that's
By
fine.
doing that,
Does
we
not-
should be able to
Alright,
take advantage of that and transfer those
Yeah,
over to
that's
VDOT at the same time.
alright, gotcha.
Okay,
were
How many
those two
stre-
streets on the road plan that we approved several months ago?
yes.
Okay, so in theory, if the grant picks up that cost, then we can reallocate that money to
Yes.
additional streets in New York.
How many streets
Exactly.
can we do a year?
We can do up to a quarter of a mile a year. No, it's not. But we have a plan laid out where I've got each street that's not currently part of VDOT, what needs to happen to those, how we can filter it into our budget, where we might be able to get some other dollars to help us. But
You said you met with Chris, but I also wanted to know, because the county and the town is partially paying for this application that they're doing, is that normal? I mean,
what, that we would use the money to transfer over?
No,
You got
that,
the road diet now?
yeah, the road
Okay,
diet.
Oh, the road diet is not part of this.
Yeah, hold on, let's let.
Oh, I thought that was the same.
No. With the road diet, I can tell you the story behind the road diet if you'd like.
Are we through with the other thing?
Yes.
Okay.
Don't like it.
Okay.
Okay.
What happened with the road diet is this. If you remember, the road diet is the repainting of Market Street all the way from Route 13 down to Hill Street to allow for, shouldn't call it a suicide lane, a turning lane in the center, then one direction each way, and then bike lanes and or painted sidewalks that would go up. Okay, so that's what the road diet is designed to do. The way that the application is taken is that a smart scale application gets taken once every other year. Okay, that's all they do is once every other year. The pavement on Street Market is expected to last 5 more years until they repave that as normal course of their paving. They wanted this road diet painting project to take place simultaneously with the repaving. The smart scale application, because it's only every other year, needed to be done in this cycle to ensure that the funds would be available when the paving project would be done under its normal course. So does that explain the timing of it?
Timing, yes.
Okay. Now, as far as the smart scale application, the application work used to be done for the county by ANPDC.
Right.
They are not able to do that work this year. So in order for the project and the application to be completed in this cycle, the county needed to retain an outside engineer to prepare the application
Can I ask the why of that?
because it requires technical information.
No, I'm not talking about the hiring. I'm talking about why ANPDC couldn't do it.
That's something that ANPDC did as a result of the staffing and the COVID and
That surprised the county as much as it did anybody.
it did. The county called that a bomb drop. They had no idea that ANPDC was not going to be doing the similar service that they've sort of always done.
Right.
So in order for the smart scale application to be included in this cycle, they needed to have an engineer prepare the application. The engineer costs money, and the county wanted to partner with the incorporated towns affected by this road diet, only on Hancock and then the county.
So the budget for ANPDC would have been affected? Is that, I mean, do you know why, any why of this?
I don't know. My guess is that it's a staffing issue, not a budget issue,
Okay.
because what ended up happening was Only did not want to partner with the county financially for this project because they literally have 800 feet of this project and they didn't want to partner with the county to pay for this smart scale application. We had talked internally about participating proportionally to our length of the project, and between Hill Street and Fairgrounds is actually just under half of that length. So we had committed to say we would pay up to a certain dollar amount proportionally. ANPDC was presented with, hey, you dropped this bomb on us at the 11th hour. None of us had this in our budget. We couldn't prepare for this. So what ended up happening was the county paid half, we paid a quarter, and ANPDC wrote a check for the other quarter.
Okay.
So it was less than I had asked you folks for, significantly. I think we wrote the check for $1,450.
Right, and it was,
And it was significantly less than the proportional portion that we had talked about getting approval for. ANPDC wrote the same amount of a check that we did, and the county covered the rest.
thank you.
I also asked the county, are we absolutely positive that this is the only financial commitment that the town will have to make for this road diet project? And I have in writing, yes.
Thank you, because we never had any idea or commitment to any funds for this, and
Yeah.
everybody was all rah, let's do it.
Yeah.
And then you turn around and you say, but the tab for that is,
Right. It's all fun and games
I've
until
got
you
a
have
bunch
to
of
check.
calls on that, actually. I've had more calls on the road diet, I think, than on the anything. People are asking me about it.
people
And
asking
we
to have
paid
it
the
done, right?
$1,450 for something that might happen, might or is gonna happen in 5 years. Is or might, which is it?
Well, the road is going to be repaved.
Is
When
it
that
gonna be
happens, I
striped?
have no earthly idea.
And that
There's no
when
way I
it's-
can comment.
Well,
on that.
they're applying for a grant. That's no guarantee they're gonna get it, correct?
Well,
Yeah.
the smart scale
Is
application
it
is,
an application or a grant?
it's an application
Okay.
to use those funds to pay for the paving
But I don't
or the
understand.
painting on the paving.
But why, they have to pay, they have to stripe it anyway. It's no, is it more, it's no more cost to stripe it for not bicycle, isn't it? I don't understand that. I can understand
I
that.
would be the choir for you right now.
Yeah, I mean, I can understand, you might need a traffic engineer to design how it's gonna be striped, and you might have to pay an engineer to tell you how to do it, but there still have to be a line every, I don't, maybe there are more lines, there must be a lot more paint, I don't know. But we don't have to pay that, we're just paying for the first part.
There you go.
And there's no way, I've had several people ask why they have to wait for it to be, they're not gonna restripe it before they repave it.
No, they're not. They
That's
talked
true.
about, because I asked the same question. I was like, why do we have to wait 5 years if you're just gonna be repainting it anyway? Why can't you just, take up the lines that are there and paint it now? And they said that the damage to the road surface by pulling up the current painting would make it untenable for VDOT.
Okay, all right. I've had several people ask about that, I'll ask that, I hope they're listening to our broadcast here. Okay, all right. Okay, yeah, you go on.
I'm done. Thank you.
You're done, okay, any questions for the town manager? There's a lot of stuff in here.
I just want to say, I think it's an excellent report. Thank you.
Yeah, well,
Yes, thank you.
they're obviously, somebody asked about the reflectors, I bet that they're gonna take the reflectors up, I assume, and redo all that, yeah.
Yes,
I did have one thing. I wanted to know about the, I guess it was for the new plantings that were done, that you're looking for water system. It's, you met
is
with
this
Bill
up
Boyd
at,
about
is
this.
this up at the Outlaw?
I'm sorry?
Is it at the blacksmith shop?
Yeah. So what are you looking to do there in terms of a watering system underground? I don't know what that says.
Well, that's not me. Mr. Boyd had requested that I learn what it would take to get town water hooked up to that property so that we could irrigate the new plantings. Remember, if we got a forestry grant for $4,400 to help support the cost of the plantings for the blacksmith. Remember that?
Right.
There's
Okay.
no water there?
No,
But even, okay, so the smart money says to me that you wouldn't be using town water to do that, but put in a pump.
Oh, well.
Oh, well, that's what I
well,
mean.
yeah,
Expensive.
that's,
Well, it's $5,000.
Yeah, you can burn through $5,000 worth of town water in no time, just let me tell you.
Right, so, but that's why I'm thinking,
Well, it wouldn't have
it would
any
make
sewer.
sense to me, when I read that, it would make sense to me that you put in a well,
And I would probably talk to Gerald about all of his options.
okay? Because the town water would be crazy money.
Well, they would have to pay the sewer, but still, they just pay for water, for just water, but it's a question of, one's a capital expense, one is a, they might not have
So-
$5,000 sitting around right now, they would have a few $100s.
So who pays the water? I mean, you're talking about a 501c3 organization, right?
We would.
So-
We
And
would
is
have
the
to pay
town,
it.
but the town owns that building, does it not?
Well, we own
Town
the
owns
school
the
too.
Yeah, I know.
Exactly.
And we deal with that.
Well,
That's
they
our
pay their own water bill.
At a reduced.
The school does not pay a water bill.
Nothing
The school
more-
doesn't pay a water bill?
No, they have to keep it under 42,000
Nothing
gallons of
more
the
than
So
cycle.
that's part of their
But
lease.
Central Accomack does pay for their water.
What the hell would you say?
Nothing.
I'm saying the school doesn't have to pay for the water bill unless it exceeds 42,000 gallons. But Central Accomack does have a water bill even though it's our property. Just,
Okay, but the fire department doesn't pay water bill. either.
Nope.
They don't have it in a meter.
yeah, I don't think so.
I don't think they do, because I've talked with them about that because of our bond covenant, you have to meter every water user.
But that's not our building anymore.
Well,
Whereas,
I'm just thinking it would be cost effective to do a well rather than hooking up water and.
That's
and
their,
going
I think
through-
that's their problem, not ours, yeah.
Well, I'm playing devil's advocate. I think the blacksmith shop is going to be a wonderful attraction for the town. And if the point comes where we have an opportunity to share in that expense, I would advocate to share because that
Here
group
for
is,
what?
the cost of putting a well in, if that's a decision that's made. I'm sure they would be willing to fundraise, but it is an asset of the town. So
Right.
it's just my 2 cents.
And the other side of that is you've already set the precedent
But I mean, well,
for making a
but it
minimum.
doesn't cost us any money to, if we're gonna pay them some money to put a well in, it doesn't cost us anything to give them town water, that's basically free. Although they just pay for a little electricity to pump it up to the plant, so you're sort of, that doesn't, I don't know, that's just a thought.
I don't see my water free.
Well, you're not, I'm talking about using town money to help them. So if you're gonna
Back to-
help
It's
them,
not helping them, it's helping us. It's an asset to the town.
I say that, but if you're gonna, if our water basically, if we're gonna give them, well, I guess that you're right, it doesn't cost us anything to give them water. It would cost us something to put a well in, I'm just saying, if you look at
But
capital
you have,
expenses.
but if there's no water there now, don't you have to run lines and all of that business? How much is that gonna cost?
Well, it's only
And
10
every
feet off
time
the
you
road,
talk
I
to
can't-
Brian, it's gonna cost you this much to do this
No,
much.
I'm just throwing it out there, I'm not advocating that. I'm
And we
saying-
also have
But I
those.
am advocating a well.
We also have those pesky little bond documents and the water debt is not going to go away. And we already know that we have to deal at some point with both the fire company and the armory is the other
Yeah.
elephant in the room. So I think Mathes's idea of a well may be the best way to.
Well, I agree, it makes sense to, but they might not have that kind of, we can cross that bridge when we get there anyway.
I wanna know that we're going in that direction.
It must have been hooked up at one point.
Well, they're their own business. I mean, we can present options to them, but,
But it's our
They're the-
property.
right, but they're their own organization and they're the
It's an
ones that are gonna manage
organization
their budget.
like HOA. HOS is an organization that is monitoring our property. And we have to be sure that we're doing what's best for everybody concerned and done equally.
I understand.
Thank you.
Well, HOS has a lease from their property, so we technically can't tell them, lease property, somebody you can't tell
I don't
them.
want to talk technicalities here because I know what they're getting.
If you rent a, something to somebody, you can't tell them what the institution, but somebody you can. There's no water there already, I mean, he must have had water during the. or just was
I
cut
don't,
off.
there are obviously no facilities in that
No.
building, no faucet, no water. I don't know what Mr. Outlaw did back in the day. That was before my time.
What if they had a little well?
Clinton, would you know?
Whoa, whoa.
Oh, so you have a little well. Yeah.
So there is a well.
So that if there's a well, you're halfway home, right?
It
Maybe.
still works.
Well, I mean,
Has
because
it fallen in?
that's where the water is.
Oh, there's water down there. They have to get water. All right. So what was the last question? comments. Joy, you got anything?
I'm just, would like to ask everybody to do a rain dance.
Amen.
Too dry.
You got any comments? No comment? April?
I've had enough for one night. Thank you.
Tom?
Other than to thank Lisa again for the work that she did on the grant thing, and I spent about an hour together last week, and I think as evidenced by his report, this young man is hitting the ground running. And I, for one, find that a very refreshing change, and I thank you.
Great report here. Well, I will not be at the next meeting. Here, so, you can be here locally.
I should be here, yeah. COVID's got me hung.
Well, that's the plan. So, everybody knows that change. It just seems to work out really well. Of course, we had 2 members not show up. I'm not saying, we needed them here, but it does make things a lot more or less crowded here. I think we still have them spread out. We haven't got any public hearings or anything scheduled for August, do we, that we know? It'd be pretty short agenda.
Well, this works better than the Zoom to me. I'm glad we
Yeah,
were
I'm not
able to
a
do
Zoom
this.
person either. I thought Janet sent me a couple of messages about, and this is working, and she said she can hear everybody really well. So it seems to be working pretty real time. So that's good. I appreciate you getting this working. That's nice. All righty, I'll give a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second,
Hi, second.
in favor, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you all.
Let you recycle that for next month, because we're on a tight budget.
Okay, that'll work too.
That's not mine, it was here with the check, so I'm assuming it's Lisa's.